Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Heinrich and I'm the real nuclear physicist. In today's video we'll be taking a look at one of the most ridiculous theories out there, and that is flat earth. The video in question will be Eric Dubay's 200 proof that the earth is not a spinning ball.
200 proofs Earth is not a spinning ball by Eric Dubay. 1. The horizon always appears perfectly flat 360 degrees around the observer, regardless of altitude. All amateur balloon, rocket, plane, and drone footage show a completely flat horizon over 20 plus miles high. Only NASA and other government space agencies show curvature in their fake CGI photos and videos.
The fact that the horizon always appears flat is actually lazy thinking. If you would have gone high enough, you would have seen that the Earth curves. In fact, here are a few examples taken from the International Space Station. And I know you're going to say it's fisheye lenses, but look closely, there's subjects in the foreground that aren't even distorted, which would have happened if it was a fisheye lens. And by the looks of some of your videos, you're the one using fisheye lenses. If you look at the video that you showed, sometimes the earth is flat, sometimes it's curved, and sometimes it's even convex. I mean, come on, who would believe a convex earth theory?
2. The horizon always rises to the eye level of the observer as altitude is gained, so you never have to look down to see it. If Earth were in fact a globe, no matter how large, as you ascended, the horizon would stay fixed, and the observer or camera would have to tilt, looking down further and further to see it.
Now, Eric, you say that the horizon would always rise to eye level. In fact, that's actually an untrue claim. Flat Earth, not flat Earth, spherical Earth, the horizon won't rise to eye level. Sure, if the Earth was flat, it would be much less than what it is on the round Earth. But to be honest, there's quite a lot of experiments that you can do at home at different altitudes so that you can actually see the horizon is not always at eye level. In fact, in an aeroplane, there's instruments that show the actual horizon versus the altitude of the aeroplane. So once again, you say something, but it's just words. It's not true.
3. The natural physics of water is to find and maintain its level. If Earth were a giant sphere, tilted, wobbling, and hurtling through infinite space, then truly flat, consistently level surfaces would not exist here. But since Earth is in fact an extended flat plane, this fundamental physical property of fluids, finding and remaining level, is consistent with experience and common sense.
On the fact that water finds its own level, yes, it does. You can test it. But the thing is, the level that you think of does not necessarily mean flat. It means that at a certain point, all those points are at the same height above sea level. So if you take 2 points a meter apart, and you measure them 100 meters from sea level, yes, they are level. You can put a spirit level across and they are level. Now, if you do that 10 meters apart all across the globe and you measure each one of them next to each other, all of them will be level. But the thing is, on the opposite sides of the globe, they won't appear level, but they are still at the same height above sea level.
4. Rivers run down to sea level, finding the easiest course, north, south, east, west, and all other intermediary directions over the Earth at the same time. If Earth were truly a spinning ball, then many of these rivers would be impossibly flowing uphill. For example, the Mississippi in its 3,000 miles would have to ascend 11 miles before reaching the Gulf of Mexico.
Rivers running uphill, I mean, come on, you can't really believe that. If you look at what the Earth is you think of it as a hill. You're standing on this edge, somebody else is standing on that edge, and the river has to run over the hill. But it's the same concept. It's altitude, so it's height above sea level. Yes, the mountains, high above sea level. Ocean, sea level. So gravity pulls the water from high above sea level towards the ocean. Not on a flat plane, but rather on a sphere closest to its center. Take a look at this picture. This shows exactly what I mean about what you think the Earth curve should be, and that is not what it is.
5. One portion of the Nile River flows for 1,000 miles with a fall of only 1 foot. Parts of the West African Congo, according to the supposed inclination and movement of the ball Earth, would be sometimes running uphill and sometimes down. This would also be the case for the Parana, Paraguay, and other long rivers.
So Eric, proof 5 is just a reword of proof 4. And once again, I don't think you understand the difference between elevation and curvature. So just like the example previous, the Nile River would curve with the Earth, like it does. Whereas you think if the Earth is curved, the Nile should run up and down, which would make a mountain in the middle. That is not how the Earth curve works, because we have gravity.
6. If Earth were a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, as NASA and modern astronomy claim, spherical trigonometry dictates the surface of all standing water must curve downward an easily measurable 8 inches per mile multiplied by the square of the distance. This means along a 6-mile channel of standing water, the Earth would dip 6 feet on either end from the central peak. Every time such experiments have been conducted, however, standing water has proven to be perfectly level.
Really, Eric? And these photos? Like you can see in all of them, over a long distance of water, all of these structures somehow curve away from you. And I can assure you that it's nothing to do with perspective.
7. Surveyors, engineers, and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their projects. Canals, railways, bridges, and tunnels, for example, are always cut and laid horizontally, often over hundreds of miles, without any allowance for curvature.
Eric, this is an outright lie. Sure, engineers don't use Earth curve for small-scale projects like buildings and stuff like that, because the distances are just too small. But for large projects, sure, long bridges, yes, they have to take it into account. In fact, I'll put some links in the description, and you can go and have a look at them, where engineers take the Earth curve into account.
8. The Suez Canal, connecting the Mediterranean with the Red Sea, is 100 miles long, without any locks, making the water an uninterrupted continuation of the two seas. When constructed, the Earth's supposed curvature was not taken into account. It was dug along a horizontal datum line 26 feet below sea level, passing through several lakes from one sea to the other, with the datum line and the water's surface running perfectly parallel over the 100 miles.
Eric, this proof just brings us back to proof 4 and 5, where we looked at the rivers in the Nile River. Sure, you think there should be a big bulge in the middle that the river should flow over. But just remember, in reality, down is the direction that gravity pulls. And on the sphere, down is towards its center.
9. Engineer W. Winkler was published in the Earth Review regarding the Earth's supposed curvature, stating, "As an engineer of many years' standing, I saw that this absurd allowance is only permitted in school books. No engineer would dream of allowing anything of the kind. I've projected many miles of railways and many more of canals, and the allowance has not even been thought of, much less allowed for. This allowance for curvature means this, that it is 8 inches for the first mile of a canal, and increasing at the ratio by the square of the distance in miles. Thus, a small navigable canal for boats, say 30 miles long, will have, by the above rule, an allowance for curvature of 600 feet. Think of that, and then please credit engineers as not being quite such fools. Nothing of the sort is allowed. We no more think of allowing 600 feet for a line of 30 miles of railway or canal than of wasting our time trying to square the circle.
First of all, Eric, something that an engineer wrote in a book more than 100 years ago is a historical opinion, and it's not a proof. So I think if your best testimony comes from 1893, then you should probably look into some more recent studies. In fact, almost every engineering and surveying book for large projects takes the earth curve into account. And this also goes back to the rivers proof. Level is the same height above the sea level. It does not mean flat, straight across on a plane. It's not a ball with a flat line going out. It's a ball all the way around with the same height. And then also just another thing, I looked into finding this so-called Earth Review book and I couldn't find anything. So it's probably not a credible publication. What I did find, however, is this quote is in Earth, Not a Spinning Ball Review. And it's a publication from somebody that was a follower of Samuel Rowbotham. So it's quite shocking that it wasn't even a peer-reviewed publication.
10. The London and Northwestern Railway forms a straight line, 180 miles long, between London and Liverpool. The railroad's highest point, midway at Birmingham Station, is only 250 feet above sea level. If the world were actually a globe, however, curving 8 inches per mile squared, the 180-mile stretch of rail would form an arc, with the center point at Birmingham raising over a mile, a full 5,400 feet above London and Liverpool.
Eric, if you're going to keep repeating proofs like this, you should probably rename the video to 4 proofs the Earth is not a spinning ball. Because I mean, this is once again a rewording of the previous proof, which is basically just a rewording of the rivers proof. So we're not on a good track record right now. Sea level around this sphere is always around this sphere. It's not a line straight through and it makes a mountain. That's not how spherical geometry works.
11. A surveyor and engineer of 30 years, published in the Birmingham Weekly Mercury, stated, "I am thoroughly acquainted with the theory and practice of civil engineering. However bigoted some of our professors may be in the theory of surveying according to the prescribed rules, yet it is well known among us that such theoretical measurements are incapable of any practical illustration. All our locomotives are designed to run on what may be regarded as true levels, or flats. There are, of course, partial inclines or gradients here and there, but they are always accurately defined and must be carefully traversed. But anything approaching to 8 inches in the mile, increasing as the square of the distance, could not be worked by any engine that was ever yet constructed. Taking one station with another, all over England and Scotland, it may be stated that all the platforms are on the same relative level. The distance between eastern and western coasts of England may be set down as 300 miles. If the prescribed curvature was indeed as represented, the central stations at Rugby or Warwick ought to be close upon 3 miles higher than a chord drawn from the 2 extremities. If such was the case, there is not a driver or stoker within the kingdom that would be found to take charge of the train. We can only laugh at those of your readers who seriously give us credit for such venturesome exploits as running trains round spherical curves. Horizontal curves on levels are dangerous enough. Vertical curves would be 1,000 times worse, and with our rolling stock, constructed as at present, physically impossible.
Eric, you see what I mean? Once again, it's a railway proof. Same as the previous one, same as the previous one. So just see what I said there, and then come back to the next one.
12. The Manchester Ship Canal Company, published in the Earth Review, stated, "It is customary in railway and canal constructions for all levels to be referred to a datum which is nominally horizontal and is so shown on all sections. It is not in the practice in laying out public works to make allowances for the curvature of the earth."
Eric, you see, another one. Another railway, another canal, just another rewording. Like I said, just go see my other debunkings. I'm not going to repeat myself.
13. In a 19th century French experiment by MMBO and Arago, a powerful lamp with good reflectors was placed on the summit of Deserto del Palmas in Spain, and able to be seen all the way from Campri on the island of Ibiza. Since the elevation of the 2 points were identical, and the distance between covered nearly 100 miles, if Earth were a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, the light should have been more than 6,600 feet, 1.25 miles, below the line of sight.
Again, Eric, you use experiments and proofs more than 100 years old. You have to say something that you can't find a recent experiment that shows this. In fact, some of the flat earthers tried this experiment, and what did they find? They found that it wasn't flat. The earth, in fact, is a globe. And I also think you don't understand geometry. Take a look at this picture. Now, if you do the correct calculations, you'll find that you're more than able to see the lamp in the experiment. But if we look at details of the experiment and trying to replicate it today, it's quite difficult. If we use the information of the experiment today, we can do the calculations and see that we would be able to see the lamp. But if we go and have a look at the data that you gave us, in fact, there is no place called Campri on Ibiza. And there's no place on Ibiza with identical elevation. So if we took the highest peak on Ibiza, which is 1,500 feet above sea level, and if we take the Deserto Las Palmas, is 2,300 feet above sea level, we would get that you'd be able to see the peak of the mountain, as it would only be obscured by 1,000 feet.
14. The Lieutenant Colonel Portlock experiment used oxyhydrogen Drummond's lights and heliostats to reflect the sun's rays across stations set up across 108 miles of St. George's Channel. If the Earth were actually a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, Portlock's light should have remained hidden under 1.5 miles of curvature.
Eric, once again you repeat one of your proofs. So just go look at proof number 13's debunking, and then we can carry on to number 15. Thanks.
15. If the Earth were truly a sphere 25,000 miles in circumference, airplane pilots would have to constantly correct their altitudes downwards so as to not fly straight off into outer space. A pilot wishing to simply maintain their altitude at a typical cruising speed of 500 miles per hour would have to constantly dip their nose downwards and descend 2,777 feet, over 0.5 mile, every minute. Otherwise, without compensation, in 1 hour's time, the pilot would find themselves 31.5 miles higher than expected.
Eric, this is a false fact. You think on a spherical Earth, if a plane stayed at the same altitude, it would fly straight off. That's not true. That's not reality. Altitude, once again, is above sea level. If the plane stays at the same altitude, it goes around. So now, how does the plane maintain that altitude? With lift. Gravity pulls it down, lift brings it up. So as gravity pulls it down, the lift needs to be increased to maintain the altitude. If you decrease lift, you go down, increase lift, you go up. And once again, up and down is towards the center of Earth or away from the center of Earth.
16. The experiment known as Aries failure proved that the stars move relative to a stationary Earth, and not the other way around. By first filling a telescope with water to slow down the speed of light inside, then calculating the tilt necessary to get the starlight directly down the tube, Airy failed to prove the heliocentric theory, since the starlight was already coming in the correct angle, with no change necessary, and instead proved the geocentric model correct.
Eric, you quote this experiment's result out of context, so that you can deceive people to thinking the Earth is flat and they couldn't prove that the Earth was a spinning round sphere. Where in actuality is the experiment tried to prove the existence of ether, which was the medium that we thought light would propagate through, as we looked at light as a wave and we did not know about the wave-particle duality. The results of the experiment could only explain two things. Either the ether does not exist, or the ether exists, but the Earth is stationary. And like we know today, there is no ether, which means the Earth is not stationary. And if the Earth is not stationary, it can't be a flat, stationary plane. Alright everybody, I think that's enough headache for one day. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to subscribe. Alright everybody, I think that's enough headache for one day. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe and press the bell to get a notification every time I post a video. Thanks for coming on this journey with me.